Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today I want to talk about 3 of the biggest challenges, roadblocks that are facing free-to-play in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes right now. And where this list kind of spawns from was a couple of different channel members, people asking some good questions in the Discord, and I just thought that, they all kind of had a general gist to it around balancing and relics and mods and the kind of all rolling into here's the challenges you're facing and the ways to kind of solve them. Especially, I think it's a free-to-play right now. It's very challenging to find the right balance between the amount of resources you're putting into something before you're going overboard. So we're going to kind of break into that, guys. Please like and subscribe. Let's give a huge shout out to our channel members for their continued support. If you're ever interested, y'all know where that link is. It's down below, along with a link to Discord. Go check that out. Thank you guys again for keeping the faith, for believing in me, putting up with stuff, good, bad, right, wrong, or indifferent. You all are amazing. Let's talk about these challenges, these roadblocks, and what you should be doing now in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes to combat them, especially my free-to-play community. I know you guys, don't get as much love because I'm a, I guess, whale now. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Alright, so let's start off here first with a lack of understanding about relic levels, or even that players don't add context. As a free-to-play right now, there's a lot of questions around, hey, is it worth it to do this? Is it worth it to do that? And that's such a loaded question, because I don't think there's no added context to it. And here's an example. Is it worth it to Relic 9 your Imperial Remnants? Yeah, that you'll eventually get your money back. You'll eventually get your resources back. Okay. Well, do you have, so sure, it's worth it, but do you have the resources to give them, right? And there's this lack of understanding that we don't really think. I think part of the problem is when you look at just an individual relic level upgrade, you're like, oh, that's not that bad, right? And you do that a couple of times. But when you really step back and you look at the total amount of upgrades you would have to make, things start to get scary. Let me show you an example here. I'm going to switch over to the SWGO events page. So this is the gear server here. And I'm going to just put in the 3 Imperial Remnants that I have. I have these characters at Relic 7 already. So if I want to take them to Relic 9, right? So this will show me what this page does. If you guys have never been on here, you link your ally code, and then you can input the relic levels, and it will tell you how much you need to equip. So right here, when you look, it says I need 300 blue signal data to take these characters from their current spot to Relic 9. 300 blue signal data. That's what this piece down here is. I don't know that you guys can see it because of the fat face. Hold on. There you go. You guys can see that. There's the blue signal data. So to put that into perspective, right, of just how much is 300 blue signal data? Well, I'm going to pull up one of my allies from, my first ever guild I was in. This guy has not logged into SWGO. Let me show you guys. It's kind of funny. Look at Chasley 2 has not logged into SWGO in 2,000 days. This is literally somebody who was in my first ever guild with them. Which is it's so crazy. This guild, I mean, they were terrible. We were awful. It took us 6 months to beat the tank raid. It was bad. But anyway, so I switched over to pull in his ally code here because he doesn't have any relics. So if I put Leia in here, and then I say, hey, you know what? I want to get Leia Organa herself to Relic 7 as well. That is 705 flawed signal data. 705 flawed signal data. I need 300 to take those 3 remnant characters from Relic 7 to Relic 9. You need 700 for the entire Leia Organa farm. This entire thing takes 700 signal data. Another example here. Let's go to, let's pick out Jabba. Right? Let's throw Jabba in here. I want Jabba at Relic 7. 620. This is where I'm talking about the added context. So many players don't put the added context behind how much you're actually spending on that character, right? Lord Vader. Just one last example here, and then I'll kind of wrap up what I mean by all this stuff. Lord Vader at Relic 7, 945 flawed signal data. That's still just an obscene amount of signal data, but I don't think that's the most. Right? Because again, gotta at least say I don't think he's the most anymore because reasons. But Ahsoka, yeah, no longer the most expensive. But anyway, just think that taking those remnants from Relic 7 to Relic 9 is 300 signal data, which is almost 25% of the entire Ahsoka farm, where you're already building them to Relic 7, but to bring them to 9, you're going to spend about 25% of what you would have had to spend for Ahsoka. That right there is part of the problem with the free-to-play community right now. One of the biggest challenges, there's a lack of understanding that people don't do that math. They don't put the perspective of just how much it is. They get too kind of caught up in when you do this one at a time, you don't really capture how much you're actually spending. But when you step back and you look at it as a whole, it's crazy. So if I can encourage you guys right now, add context to your relic levels. Understand just how much those things cost. And if you're free to play, this is where you can start making smarter decisions because you'd understand what that means. That signal data can turn into a whole nother farm because you didn't spend it on something that you don't need right now. Like a great example, I've said this before. When you're asking yourself, hey, should I Relic 9 or Relic 8 these characters? It's kind of like, and there's a return. It's kind of like me asking you today, right now, hey, if you give me $10,000 in a year, I'll give you $20,000. That sounds like a great deal, right? But the rule is you have to actually write me a check today for $10,000. How many of you, most of you don't even know how to write a check, but how many of you actually would have $10,000 that you could do that with? Right? Most people don't. So it's not even, and then it's like, oh, well, I would, but then I couldn't live. Yeah. So that's kind of what, like, that relic level, that lack of understanding, the context, that when you look at it from that lens, you see that it's insane. Next is this balancing act, and this goes along with, balancing your relics, but it's that I need to catch up. I need to build all these things that are older because they're easier, or I have the light speed bundles, or, if you're free to play, it's like all the old stuff that's easy to farm, it's accessible, but also that need to stay current, trying to balance those two things of I don't want to fall so far behind on the current things that I've got everything, prior to Leia, but I don't have Beskar, I don't have Bo-Katan, I don't have Gungans, I don't have Queen Amidala, Luthen, Ezra, whatever, right? This is a really challenging, thing to do, where you're trying to build something new, you're trying to build something old. And a lot of how you can do this is focusing on some of those newer things that have a bit more use than just one specific thing. So a good example here would be the Naboo raid. When you think about that battle for Naboo raid, and again, we don't know when this is sunsetting, but you had that, Newt, Sidious, and Maul team. Those are three very old characters, three characters that are all GL requirements. That right there is a great way to stay current and catch up. You have a team that's going to currently score well in the raid, and some stuff that is needed for older farms. Another way that this kind of crops up at times is obviously the Galactic Legends, trying to balance, hey, I've got my older ones, but I don't have any progress on the new ones, or I have the new one and I'm missing like 6 of the old ones. What I would recommend doing is kind of thinking through it as a 1-in-1. I'm going to do an older team, I'm going to do a newer team. I'm going to do an older team, I'm going to do a newer team. And this way you still have some of that new stuff, but you're not completely ignoring the old. Because we have seen the old get better, or get a lifter that all of a sudden brings it to a level that it did not belong to be at, that it was not at before. Hello. Right? Prime example there. Hello. There's certain characters that have come in and lifted these older factions, and all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, this is insane. And so you don't want to be completely caught out where you don't have new stuff. But if you don't have some of those older things, you might not even have a good enough base, and you're going to lose battles in GAC or whatever else. So I would kind of recommend trying to build something new and then go with something old. Build something new, build something old. Because you'll get through the older farms faster, right? You'll get their shards faster. Some of them don't have the Kyra investment, or maybe you don't need them at Relic 9 for whatever farm you're doing. But I would absolutely recommend trying to balance that need to catch up and staying current by doing like one of each. And that way, you're not, I think of a lot of players who got to the Naboo raid and had nothing ready for it. Here, you could have at least had something if you built the Gungans or the Queen Amidala team, while still building some of those older things to keep your roster moving forward. And then finally, we are truthfully in a mod quality crisis. And this is kind of a twofold problem. Capital Games, everybody seems to want speed, health, or offense. Right? If I generalize this game into 3 mod stats, it's speed, health, and offense. That's what everybody wants. And it's approaching a point where it's kind of getting out of hand, where too many characters need the exact same things, want the exact same roles, and there's not a lot of, I'd say they haven't updated the mod economy to reflect the need for better and better modding in this game. Because mods don't just impact your grand arenas and your territory wars. All of territory battles, so much of this is driven by modding. So much of Conquest, Galactic Challenges, all of that is driven from, do you have the mods in place? I even think about the raids right now. Some of these waves you will not complete if you don't have the right mods on them. So I struggle when I look at my account and I look at others and it's like, oh my gosh, where are all your mods? And I think we just haven't gotten the pacing of the mod materials, slicing, calibrations, I truly believe has not kept up to pace with the characters. When you think about what the average character needs now compared to a year ago, 2 years ago. So I do think that those are 3 major problems facing the free-to-play community. And if I had to say, well, how do you solve the mod problem one? Phil, that's an interesting. How would you solve that? I would say that what you're going to need to do here is focus on the characters where that modding makes a difference first. And normally you can tell. In your first order teams, you probably don't need A tier mods on Sith Trooper or Hux or First Order Officer. We can focus on Rey, we can focus on Kylo, we can focus on Kylo Ren Unmasked. So that's kind of one thing. And then the other side of this is just get Jabba, and then you get then you get extra rewards every single month. But I know that's not always realistic for everybody because you could be a ways away from that. But I do think that the mod quality crisis is something that is really beginning to plague this game, and it's coming out more and more even at the top end, right, at my level and above, where I'm seeing players struggle to keep up with the modding that they need in order to stay competitive at that Kyber level. So let me know your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.